So guys, we have done it. We have hit 3,000 subscribers on Lexalexus. I've got to thank all of you for continually putting the support. I've not made it easy for everyone to keep following the content. The amount of videos has really been cut down tremendously because of me working a full-time job now. But you guys are stuck with it. It's taken a little over 2 years to get from 2,000 to 3,000, but I am truly grateful that we're now in this position and hopefully aiming to move on to maybe get to 4,000 or maybe 5,000, dare I dream. But today I'm going to do a simple Q&A. I've not done one in a long while, and I'm pleased to see that there were a couple of you that sent questions in, and more so, I am actually really excited to read all these questions out and give you my most honest answers to them as possible. If you guys want to see more videos like this in the future and want to see another Q&A session from me, maybe in the live stream format next time, please let me know in the comments down below, and to sort of show the support for the video, please like it, subscribe and share as well. All of that really does help. But without any further ado, let's hop on with this Q&A. So I'm going to skip the intro. I didn't deem it to be very relevant, with it being, well, it could technically be a non-championship video, but we do have some championship related questions. Here's the first one from Tony Hayes. Do you like Norwich City? Ooh, and what football team do you support? So I'll give my verdict on Norwich City. I always find it not boring to watch Norwich. They are certainly a team that I have found entertaining each time I've either done a watch along. I think the last Norwich game I saw live on this channel was the Norwich Middlesbrough game, which ended 3-3, and that is a good example of what we typically see from Norwich. Quite leaky at the back, but they're really good going forward, and I really like some of the players that they have really enhanced in that squad as well. We've obviously seen recently Jonathan Rowe, who scored the winning goal of the Euro final. He spent a couple of seasons in Norwich as well. And there have been some really good characters departing from Norwich. And there's still some decent squad players in that Norwich team as well. Do I support them, however? It's a big fat no. I have walked past Carrow Road a couple of times because I've been to Norwich a couple of times myself for study purposes. But never have actually gone into Carrow Road, and I have not actually watched an East Anglian derby between Ipswich and Norwich as well. But maybe this year will be a bucket list thing for me to try and go for. I don't think I'm busy on the first game from when they play on the 4th of October, I think it was. So maybe that could be a good opportunity for me to actually see the tension, although I probably will be really nervous, because I will be supporting in favour of Ipswich, and to explain my allegiance with Ipswich is due to the fact that I started my work in Ipswich, and they've ultimately have actually been really nice with me. I've been to a couple of Ipswich games. You probably would have seen that I've actually attended one of Benjamin Bloom's Blue Monday events, and I've actually got to meet Benjamin Bloom as well. It was definitely one of the highlights in the last 2 years, meeting Benjamin Bloom. I mean, he only realised I was around, because he was expecting me to be on the Blue Monday thing, but then he actually managed to find me watching, I think it was the Preston game we were watching. It was Preston or Blackburn, it was one of the sides. It was a game where Ipswich won, which, to be fair, they won a lot on that season, but he found where I was sitting based on a tweet that I sent as well, so he certainly knew Portman Road in the back of his hand. Had a really good chat during half time. Then we watched the rest of the second half. We both had our cameras out, just trying to capture any sorts of memories that we needed. Of course, he was recording a video. He edited that video, and lo and behold, straight after that, he went and presented the Blue Monday podcast. So I'm going on a bit of a tangent here, but obviously I do have a bit of support for Ipswich, just part of the fact that I work there, not as much now, which I'll allude to with a reason why in a minute, but the whole Blue Monday event was brilliant. Met the whole Blue Monday team. I support multiple teams that mean something for me. I'm a local Essex lad, so I'll be looking to see how the Essex teams are performing as well. Colchester had a really good year last year, and I'm actually working a lot more in Colchester now than I am in Ipswich. And in fact, my Christmas party this year is actually going to be in the JobServe Community Stadium, which I think is going to be a little bit crazy. But I have been to a couple of Colchester games as well, but I've been to Portman Road a little bit more recently than I have been with the JobServe Community Stadium. And honestly, I feel like with whatever allegiance I'm in, whatever locality I'm in, you do gravitate to supporting those teams. But to give you the long-winded answer to what team I will always follow is Chelsea. Chelsea are the side that my dad and my uncle grew up watching, and they were in a household where you had half of the family supporting Chelsea and the other half supporting Tottenham Hotspur. So it was quite a bit of a divide when it came round to football, but ultimately, my dad still supports Chelsea. Ultimately, Chelsea will be the team I follow. I grew up watching Chelsea. I really did enjoy Carlo Ancelotti's team, Jose Mourinho's first and second teams as well. Conte had some great quality as well. And Thomas Tuchel has really been the last time where I felt quite confident in a Chelsea side being able to deliver in cup competitions as well. And I feel like I will continue to support Chelsea for as long as I live, but certainly as well, I like to keep a good eye out to see how my local Essex teams are doing as well. And I feel a little bit for Southend. I did keep my eye on them as well. They narrowly missed out on getting promoted back to League Two. Hopefully with Southend, because they've had a really tough financial couple of years, they can start to build from this and they can go back and attack the National League as strong as ever. Didn't expect to answer that question as long as I did, but here's another championship related question. Charlie, who's been a long-term viewer on the channel, he's probably been there since day 1 or 2. Unbelievable support. He's asked me for my current thoughts of West Brom. They were the second highest teams in terms of draws, with 19 draws, behind Preston with 20. Yeah, West Brom's an interesting one. I've not spoken about West Brom a lot in terms of previewing their chances this season, and I've actually not done a separate piece of my thoughts of Ryan Mason coming in terms of my transfer video as well, because West Brom got him in very early in the window, and what I am liking with West Brom, I think they are starting to now act pretty proactively to their season. They did make it very clear that this is going to be a transitional season, especially with the type of manager, and certainly with the experienced players that are going to be departing as well. And West Brom are now in a very peculiar position where they've now run out of their parachute payment terms. So, of course, they got relegated in 2021 from the Premier League. Obviously, the first season I watched the Championship, they got promoted in second place. It looked very, very good, of course. And West Brom have consistently been there or thereabouts, whether it's top 6 or just outside top 6. Even in their worst seasons, they always seem to be lingering around the corner. I do think for someone like Ryan Mason, it does offer a very interesting opportunity to see, a potentially exciting team in hand. I like the fact that they got Nat Phillips. They beat off some really big competition to get his signature as well. Draws as a separate issue. So what is making it very clear is that West Brom last season were a team that not many people were able to beat, but they similarly could not find a way to convert those draws into wins. You'd think if they converted 3 or 4 of those draws into 3 points rather than one singular point, that would have pushed them into the top 6, and who knows what would have happened if they did get the playoffs. But if buts and maybes, draws can signify that a team is on the cusp of something great. I think they've certainly got a good formula of getting by most of their games, but what they need now is just that killer instinct. They need this elite mentality to try and go for each second ball and to really attack the game for the whole 90 minutes and to not be too conservative with their approach and playing it safe. And I think Ryan Mason will certainly want this West Brom team to be highly attacking. I haven't seen a lot of him. Obviously, he's been an interim manager a couple of times for Spurs, and I've not really got a lot to judge really with that, to be honest. So this will be like my perfect opportunity to see how Ryan Mason does when he is now the head honcho in terms of a managerial or coach position for a championship club, which I think is a good opportunity for him. He'll work with some decent players from West Brom, and I think he will certainly be given time to get his system in place. And I am pretty intrigued to see how he'll get on, honestly. Another one from Charlie. He says, in terms of all the seasons you covered, here we go, which one have I enjoyed the most? Oh my goodness. I did a video a long time ago. I remember doing it where I ranked all the championship seasons in the last 10 years. And I could distinctly remember the best season I ranked in terms of the seasons I covered in the championship was the very first one, the 2019-2020 season. And I feel like it will be that one again. I mean, obviously it was the most bizarre season ever. It was the longest season ever, which we had 38 amazing games, or 37, 38 amazing games. And then, lo and behold, we couldn't play the last 9. We had to wait and be desperate and actually have some doubt whether the season was going to be concluded. Of course, in the lower divisions, they were, completing the seasons, and they were projecting points per games to get teams promoted and relegated. It was absolutely brutal. But the championship, luckily, were able to soldier on, and they did play their last 9 games. And what happened in those 9 games was completely unprecedented. You had a Brentford team really, really high in form. Then they hit a rocky patch, and then suddenly they were in a position to win and they get promoted to the Premier League for the first time in their history. But they face a Barnsley side under Gerard Struber, by the way, who they needed to win themselves to try and avoid relegation. And lo and behold, Barnsley win. And I like to think Brentford, I don't think actually lost a game at Griffin Park, it was at the time, until that very last home game of the season. And what that result meant is that it meant Barnsley stayed up and Brentford missed out on promotion. It was absolutely brutal. And then that doesn't end here. I can't remember if it was exactly that season. I like to think it was that same season. Was it the same season that involved the Swansea and in terms of the Nottingham Forest one as well? I like to think it was the same season, but I do fear that I'm confusing seasons. But if you will know the story, it's when Nottingham Forest were in the top 6, looking very, very comfortable. All they needed to do was to avoid defeat and they would make it into the playoffs. They lost very heavily to Stoke City by 4-1. But ironically enough, I think it was Reading that Swansea played. They beat them by 4-1. So by a 6-goal swing, Swansea swapped places with Nottingham Forest, and Nottingham Forest fell out of the top 6. I'd like to say it was that season, because if I distinctly remember right, I think Brentford had to get past Swansea in the playoff semi-final, and they managed to get the better out of them. And then, lo and behold, Brentford lost out to Fulham in the playoff final, and that also went to after extra time. So it wasn't the most classic playoff final, but the fact that it dragged on to 120 minutes does suggest the closeness of that game. We also had unbelievable scorelines in that season. Wigan 8, Hull City 0 springs to mind as well. I distinctly remember playing the goal celebration for Wigan as a running joke of when I was doing my analysis of the game. And it would give me distinct memories. It was, easy. Well, I wouldn't say it was easy at times, and it wasn't like most terrific times. Especially the first 37 games, it was absolutely amazing. I was in university, I was kind of balancing that work life with YouTube, and I found a distinct balance. And then when things did stop and stand still, you just had to find ways to entertain yourself, and naturally you do have to think of really, really creative ideas. And one thing that I will take with some positivity in that time, whilst it was a negative time for a lot, it was by far the healthiest I've ever been. I was able to go for walks and runs every day. I was able to control my eating a lot more because I wasn't under stress. In terms of university stuff, it was all online. You had so much more time to get things done, and you weren't pinned by a strict time of the day to get things sorted. The lectures were all online. So ultimately, it was just such a relaxing period, and it was by far the healthiest I've ever been. And it's only like now I'm just trying to regain some sort of control back of my health. So lots of mixed, sad, happy memories in terms of that year. But as a championship season, it was absolutely incredible. The Barnsley Great Escape, the Nottingham Forest collapse, and just the quality of the teams of Leeds and West Brom going up. Absolutely incredible. And by the way, I do apologise if I'm confusing the Nottingham Forest collapse in an incorrect season. But quite honestly, it was an unbelievable last day of the season. And I remember when I did my collaboration with Ben HD, we all agreed on the point that the season kind of does define its greatness by its climax. And we were quite lucky actually last season. We did have a pretty exciting climax as well. But for me, I just don't think many things are going to top that 1920 season. I will give a special shout out to Derby survival on the last day against Sheffield Wednesday. I mean, that Derby Sheffield Wednesday game, last game of the season, with that being the decider of the winner of that game staying in the championship. Oh my god, that was an unbelievable game. I remember streaming that game. Oh my goodness me. I mean, yeah, that certainly gives a special shout out. But for me, my favourite season still to this day is the 2019-2020 season as well. I also like to know of what your guys' favourite season is in the comments down below. I'll be really intrigued to see if there are any differing opinions. The last couple of questions are from Johnny. Thank you for sending a couple here. As a football fan, do you have any other sports that you love watching? Good question, because I've not spoken about this a lot. And yes, there are some other sports I do occasionally watch as well. I mean, football I follow the most, you know, week in, week out. I always like to see like what predictions I'm doing, what teams are doing, injuries, all of that stuff. But in terms of other sports that I occasionally put on, I do like watching cricket as well. I do pay attention to test matches, T20s. The 100 I'm a bit mixed about, but I take it for what it is. It's cricket. And actually what's quite exciting is that my company, one of our sponsors is Essex Cricket, so we do have some really exciting little opportunities that we can go to the Essex Cricket games, and you know, lo and behold, the Essex Cricket ground's in Chelmsford, so it's really convenient for me. So I do watch cricket. In fact, I have been to one cricket game live. It was I like to think it was Essex versus Lancashire. It was a test game, and quite honestly, saw a couple of boundaries, but other than that, I've not actually seen a six being hit, but you don't expect to see that in test matches. Other sports, I guess tennis. I do sometimes, you know, look at something like Roland Garros or Wimbledon. I mean, Wimbledon is literally, as I'm recording, taking place tomorrow, so I probably will pay a little bit of attention. And actually, quite a few people in my work play tennis as well. Golf, I'm slowly starting to not get into, but to appreciate it a bit more. My granddad is, you know, massive into golf. So anytime he comes around, we put golf on, and I just kind of sit and nod, you know, trying to understand everything that's going on. But that's pretty much it. I say cricket and tennis are the other main two that I watch. Bits of rugby. Rugby is a tough one for me. I don't know what it is. I feel like the pace of rugby, I'm not quite excited by it. I feel like the speed that you get from football is a bit more invigorating. So I feel like I enjoy football quite a fair bit more in that regard. But to answer your question in briefer terms, yes, I do watch other sports as well. Not really like following a team week in, week out, but especially major tournaments in those sports. Another question, what do you love most about football? Oh, I think it's got to be any dramas, any last minute limbs as well. I think any tremendous comebacks as well. And those are the sorts of things that really do define the best of football. But goals are ultimately so powerful. They take you to a particular time when you see a goal happen. And I'll give you a very good example of that. As you know from my previous question, I've been to Portman Road a couple of times, and I could say that I have been lucky enough to see Wes Burns' Trivela goal against Coventry City. But it was so, the goal was amazing in itself, but it transports me back to that moment because I could distinctly remember what I was doing trying to see that goal. I nearly missed the goal entirely. So, if you didn't know, Chelmsford are currently building a new train station called Bewley Park, and because of that, there's been some train cancellations on a lot of weekends. So I had to get bus replacement service to get into Ipswich. So the way we had to do this, you had to go past Chelmsford Station, get a bus replacement service, wait until it's filled up enough with enough people wanting to use the bus. So I was sitting there for probably about 50 minutes before the bus actually departed. Then we had to go through all the stops in the build up to it. So we went past Hatfield Peveril. We waited there for about 2 minutes. No one arrived. So then they left Hatfield Peveril and we had to go to Witham. So trains were running from Witham and we had to go and basically get trains from there. They weren't allowed to depart Witham, basically. And yeah, the coach was in traffic, as you would expect. It's Saturday, people are just out everywhere. And I distinctly remember seeing the train I needed to get, and I needed to get if I was going to have any chance of at least arriving in Ipswich before 3 o'clock. Then when the coach, allowed me to get dropped off, I was running because I knew it was going to be very, very tight on time. And I just distinctly remember getting off the coach running. I saw the train leave. So then ultimately I thought, well, I'm going to miss a lot of this game then. So I had to wait another 30 minutes for a train to pick me up. And it did. And it went through every single stop known to mankind, including Colchester. And then, eventually arrived in Ipswich. By that point, it was 3:10. So I missed 10 minutes. And if you remember, Ipswich scored very early. They scored within the first 10 minutes. So I already missed a goal. So I was already pissed off enough as it is that I missed a goal. So you can imagine when I arrived, I legged it. And I'm quite lucky in a way that the station is pretty much, I'd estimate, a good probably 300 metres away from Portman Road. But I still had to run pretty full on to still get it. You had to go past a bridge to get there. And then I arrived, ultimately showed my ticket, was able to get through. And I remember just going up, can't remember, was it the Magnus Group stand I think I was in? Went up those stairs and I saw Ipswich were on attack. And as soon, almost within 10 seconds when I sat down, you all know the script. Goes back to the goalkeeper and just the incredible play. Wes Burns, Trivela goal. And literally I was there for less than a minute when that goal went in. And it felt so special to me that I saw a goal of that unbelievable quality. And the fact it was goal of the season for that year as well just made it even more special for me. And lo and behold, when I'm thinking of my favourite goal, I feel like even if I see all the most incredible Chelsea goals, that Trivela goal right there is going to stand within the test of time and be within one of my favourites that I've ever seen. It's a privilege when you do see the goal of the season. And the fact I was this close to missing it, ultimately it does stand out the test of time. So I do think goals are able to take you back in time to, the best of memories. But I do think in terms of the best parts about watching the game, which you can't have direct influence about, the comebacks are great and also just the rivalries. And I think that is certainly a really friendly, sort of like a love-hate part in the football as well. But I really do like all sorts about football, to be fair. That's why I'm doing a channel related to football. Last question, which I had to Google. Do you ever want to play a match using the old 1863 football rules? And that really got me intrigued to see what sort of rules they have. So I'm literally recording this just after I did my stadiums ranking by capacity video, and I thought it was a really, really good sort of way to, look back in time to see what sort of decisions were made and in terms of football movements. But this are the original, 13 rules from 1863. Maximum length of the ground should be 200 yards. I mean, this is, I think, pretty standard. Defined by 2 upright posts, but without a tape or a bar across them. So it's a little bit like what you see in rugby, where you've got those H goals, which I actually, well, not like the cross in the middle, but you've got like the two vertical stance posts, side by side, which I actually think is quite interesting. Honestly, if we did not have that in the Euro 2021, well, not under 21s is what I meant to say, under 2021's Euro Championships, then England could have lost that game because Germany rattled the bar a couple of times. So the bar has proven to be a good invention for the under 21s England's team in that regard. Then they had a winner for toss, which is still to this day to be commenced by a place kick from the centre of the ground by the side losing the toss. The other side shall now approach within 10 yards until the ball is kicked off. So it seems pretty natural. After a goal is won, the losing side shall kick off and the goals shall be changed. So that's a very interesting change. That's something we've not had before. A goal shall be won when the ball passes between the goalposts. Yes, of course, over the space between the goalposts at whatever height. So you can literally boot it like as high as you can, and as long as it's in between the posts, very rugby-like, you score some points. Amazing. When the ball is in touch, the first player who touches it should throw it from the point of the boundary line where it's left the ground. So what was interesting when I did do that research is the amount of times you actually use your hands actually in this. So again, just once again, shows some really, really interesting stuff that they've changed later on down the time. If a player makes a fair catch, so this term of fair catch is something we don't see a lot of these days, and is entitled to a free kick. So that's talking about, again, the use of your hands for football here. And something like fair catch is something that we don't really see anymore. The only players that can catch the ball now these days are the goalkeepers. No player can carry the ball. So what it means by carrying the ball, you cannot move forward with the ball, which makes sense. Players shall not throw the ball or pass it to another. That's very interesting. So in terms of, carrying the ball, well, you can't carry the ball, but in terms of when you hold the ball, you cannot use the strength of your hands, to basically do a passage of play. It's almost like in a way that you could stop it in a way and you're not penalised for handling the ball in the way that it is. So interesting stuff. And no player shall wear protecting nails, iron plates and the soles or heels of the boots. So interesting rules again with the boots. I mean, I would be very interested to play football, without the bar, and I think the other technicalities I would have to get used to, but why not? I feel like certainly is a good moment in history, and I feel like what would be actually a really good video is if someone tries to replicate a football game from 1863 and you can see the evolution as it changes. I don't think I've seen anyone else do that, so I feel like it will be a really good opportunity for someone to do something like that. I really would be interested to see it. Okay guys, so that was all the questions that I got. It's not been too many, but I have answered them basically as long as possible there. I've basically used as much time as I could. If you guys enjoyed the video, by the way, and you want to see more Q&A style videos like this, let me know in the comments down below, and I'll be really interested to do a little bit more. If you guys enjoyed, please smash the like button, please do subscribe, and please share as well. All of that really, really does help the growth of this channel. Thank you guys so much for watching. You guys are legendary for showing in this video, and as always, I'll see you guys soon. Take care, everyone.